What's up, you guys? So today I want to show you how I turn this picture into this picture. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so I want to first off start by saying I edit most of my pictures in Adobe Lightroom, and that's the same with this photo. So this whole photo was edited in Lightroom. Another thing I want to say is just take ideas from this video. Don't go try taking a Milky Way picture and then doing these exact adjustments to your photo, because it just won't work. Your exposure is going to be different than mine. So in any way, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. You edit to how you like it, what comes natural to you. Enough talking, let's jump in here and start editing it. Alright guys, so here we are in Lightroom. I'm going to try to move pretty quickly through this because it's really hot in here and I have to have the fan off for the audio. But keep in mind, this usually takes me upwards of at least a half hour. It can take me as much as over an hour, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so here we go. Let's jump into here. So first I'm going to create a virtual copy of this so I can reset this copy and then I'll edit it. Okay, so I'm in the copy. I'm going to reset all the settings. So here's what I started with. This isn't my favorite picture. I'm using an f4 lens on my Z6, so I've got to crank up the ISO pretty high. So it's not my favorite picture. It's not like an award winner, but you gotta take what you can get. I don't have the f2.8 version of this lens, but I would drop the ISO way further down than ISO 8000. So let's start with the settings. I shot it at ISO 8000, f4 25 seconds. So first off, looking at this, it's a little underexposed, so I want to bring it up a little bit, probably about right there. I'm going to bring the highlights down a little bit just to have that Milky Way have a little bit more detail. Shadows I'm going to bring up quite a bit just to light up that foreground. I usually like to, it was pretty hazy, so I'm going to dehaze that a little bit like that. And then also I like to bring a little bit of clarity in. About right there. A little more maybe. So as you can see already, it's got a little more contrast in the image. After that I go down to here. Sharpening I like to bring up to about 70. And then noise reduction I actually like to bring down on Milky Way pictures. I think if you go up too high like this, it makes the image, look how artificial that looks. I don't like that at all. So I like to drop that actually down to about 25. Then the stars look more, it's going to show more noise, but I think it's more natural looking. Then I go back up here, and then this contrast slider right here I leave alone for now. And I adjust the contrast down in this tone curve. So highlights I almost always bring all the way up. You can see how I go back and forth, see the stars get brighter. I always go all the way up usually. And this is still a pretty rather dark image, so I'll bring the lights up as well. Darks I'll even bring up a little bit. About there. Shadows up a little. And I have no presets for this. Each image is different, so keep that in mind too. Also, this foreground down in here it's just too green for me, so I like to drop the hue of the green down quite a bit. So then aqua too. I usually drop down. And then I'll come over here. I'll bring the vibrance up. I usually like adjusting the vibrance over the saturation. Saturation makes it, I don't like that. I like the vibrance. That's looking pretty good there. Maybe I'll bring the whites up just a hair. Then I still don't really like the look of, it's too yellow and green down here, so I'll take an adjustment brush, hit O so it shows where I'm painting, and I'll paint the whole foreground. Like so. Hit O to get rid of it, and then I'm going to bring the purple up quite a bit away from the green. And then I'll make the foreground I'll cool off the foreground a little bit, about -15. And then maybe desaturate it just a little bit. And then also, if you zoom in on these trees, there's quite a bit of color noise. So before I get into adjusting the colors, I come back down to the details section here, and I bring up the color noise reduction pretty high to get rid of all this. And Lightroom does a pretty good job getting rid of this. It takes a second, but there you go. Lightroom does a fantastic job getting rid of that. The reason I do that before I adjust the color is that color noise reduction will take away the color from this image, so then I bring it back in with adjustments. Another thing I do on Milky Way pictures is these purple and magenta, I bring up pretty high. The saturation of them and the luminance. Just because a lot of these stars up in here fall under the purple and magenta, and it just brightens them up a little bit. So now, the first thing I do to bring in some color is jump into the split toning right here. And what I always do is I put the saturation at about 50%, and then I slide this over slowly until I get the kind of color I like. So about right there, and then I drop the saturation down a little bit. And then same with the shadows, 50%. And then slowly go to about where you like it, about right there. And same thing, drop it down slowly. So that's my first step in bringing in some color. And then I'm gonna do a graduated filter on the sky here. And just dehaze it a little bit, and also add in some contrast like that. Alright, now this is where I really start to bring out the detail of the Milky Way. So I take the brush tool, and then you're going to want to zoom in, not that far, about 1 to 3. And then I take my brush tool, hit O so it shows where you're painting. And then I'm just gonna, over the whole image, the core of this Milky Way, I'm gonna paint over the darker sections. So take the dark horse, even all these little veins right around, like this dark spot here, make your brush smaller. You get the point. I'm gonna do this just quick because I don't want this video to take forever, but all these veins up in here, just paint, take your time. I'm doing it very sloppy, just for the video's sake. Okay, and then with that, I adjusted dehaze up. See how it really darkens all that? Wherever you painted, see how it darkens it all? It really brings out the detail. Another thing I also do is I make that core a little purple, so I'll bring this slider up Not too high, you don't want it like that. But just a subtle change. Even 4 is too much. I think 2 was good enough. And then on the other side of the coin, do the same thing. Start a new adjustment brush and paint over the brighter areas of the Milky Way. And once again, zoom in and take your time on this. And, oops. Hit O to block that. And then I usually just bring up the highlights on that. Not too bright, I mean, and I don't usually use the exposure. I see some people use the exposure to do this, and that does not look good at all. So, highlights make it a nice subtle change, but you don't want to make it obvious. I even used to make it obvious when I used to edit, but. Then another thing I like to do is, there was some clouds on the horizon on this picture. I'll put a radio, and this is just for this picture. I wouldn't do this on other ones, but for this one, I'll put a radio filter there, and invert that, and I'll just add a little bit of color. I think orange contrasts nice with the blue sky, and I don't want it to be too much, so I'll bring that saturation down. And that's pretty good. I might put a radio filter or a grad filter there, and maybe just brighten the hay bale a little bit. And just to give it another added touch, I'll take a brush tool. Just on the corner of that hay bale, I'll brighten that side up, just to give it some contrast. Because there was a barn over here, and lights were coming in, shining from that way, so. So, I went pretty quick on that. So I might do a few more things on that, but you guys basically get the point. And by all means, edit how you want. If you didn't like something I did, by all means, obviously don't do it. I edit to how I like it, so don't try to like exactly edit like another person. It won't work. You gotta do what comes natural to you. You try doing that too much, you're just gonna stress yourself out. So do what comes natural to you and just enjoy it. I hope you guys got some ideas from that. If you got any questions, just drop me a comment. I'd appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button on this video. It helps the channel out. Subscribe. And as always, more videos coming soon. See you guys.